On the afternoon of Friday, September 17, 2022, a young man named Tosin Kolade approached his boss at the plumbing shop where he was learning his trade and asked for permission to go home. There was no work that day. The boys at the shop had been doing nothing but sleeping, waiting for a job that never came. Tosin told his boss he needed to go home and use the toilet. His boss looked at him and said yes, telling him not to take too long. It was a simple, ordinary moment, a boss giving a young apprentice permission to step away for a few minutes. But that decision, as ordinary as it seemed, would turn out to be one of the biggest mistakes that boss would ever unknowingly make, because Tosin was not going home to use the toilet. He had somewhere else to be, and someone was already waiting without even knowing what was coming. Tosin Kolade was 20 years old and learning plumbing as a trade in the Olodo area of Oyo State. His mother was a member of the sanitation team at their Pentecostal church nearby, which meant she was one of the people responsible for cleaning the building and keeping it in order. It also meant that she had access to the church key, and since she was his mother, so did Tosin. When Tosin got home that afternoon, he did not rest, he did not use the toilet and return to the shop as his boss had expected. Instead, he picked up the key to the church and headed straight there. Once inside, he began arranging and packing the chairs together, moving them around the auditorium. To anyone passing by, it might have looked like a young man helping out in his mother's church, doing a small act of service, but that was not what was happening at all. Tosin noticed something that no one else around him might have paid attention to. He knew that 17-year-old Ifeoluwa, who lived in the same area, always passed by that street around that time of the afternoon on her way to her own church for service. He had noticed her routine, he had studied her, and on that particular day, he had planned around it. Everything, the permission from his boss, the trip home, picking up the key, the chair arrangement, all of it was calculated. He was waiting for Ifeoluwa. When Ifeoluwa eventually walked past the church, just as Tosin had expected, he called out to her. He asked her if she could assist him in carrying some of the chairs inside. Ifeoluwa was a good-natured girl. She had just finished secondary school and was at home waiting to gain admission into the university. She had no reason to suspect the young man standing at the church door. She agreed to help and proceeded to walk inside. That became the very last time anyone would ever see Ifeoluwa alive. When the service at Ifeoluwa's church ended that evening and she still had not returned home, her parents began to worry. She was not the kind of girl who would disappear without a word. They started making calls, reaching out to her friends, asking members of her church, checking every place she was likely to be. But disappointingly, nobody had seen her. Nobody knew exactly where she was. Ifeoluwa's father, who was a retired assistant commissioner of police, and her mother reported her disappearance to the police at a divisional headquarters that same night. A search party was immediately organized